Hey everybody, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/eggs-show. Audible has more than 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, pretty much any device you can imagine you can get an audiobook on. As Eggs listeners, you can download a free audiobook today by visiting audibletrial.com/eggs-show. Again, that's audibletrial.com/eggs-show for your free audiobook.
Bang ding ding, trademark. He come out 6'7" tall. Bang ding ding, 1 star. Bang dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong ding. It is a perfect day.
Woke up to the sound of the garbage truck again. Upstairs neighbor's toilet's leaking on my head. And cars broke down, I missed the bus, there runs a 10. I had a feeling this was a day to stay in bed. I finally left my pad right on the jumbo's cloud roof. A police officer pulled out his gun and said, I said, sir, you got the wrong guy. I guess it's just the perfect day. Oh, it's just the perfect day. No.
It was a perfect day. It was a perfect day.
Ever had one of those days where it seems nothing right, nothing's going your way? It's so wrong, I dedicate this song to you, and whoever relates to what we do. But somebody tell me why there's always having to me. Just another dose of reality. Just trying to make the best of this situation. This really isn't my idea of vacation.
Oh, my mamacita said, hey, baby, vámonos a ver. This chica bonita is looking
What I'm
okay.
gonna do?
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay.
My car broke down, it was a perfect day. The surface of it was a perfect day. My dog on the street was a perfect day. This one I wicked was a perfect day. My wife run away, it was a perfect day. My cat run away, it was a perfect day. My dog on the street was a perfect day. It was a perfect day. Cops took away my stash. The policeman took away my stash. It was a perfect day. It was a perfect day. Somebody broke my bong, was a perfect day. This is a hit song, it was a perfect day. Number one. It was a perfect day. Bigger than longer than strong. It was a perfect day. This one did get on top. This one did get on top. This one did get on top. This one.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another Southern California edition of Eggs. Today we're broadcasting from the MNO Studio in Marina Del Rey, California. Our guest is John Edney. Johnny is a singer, songwriter, and frontman of Southern California-based music group OPM. Additionally, he's owner and producer of MNO Records, an independent record label, and home to Kada and Ease Up, both up-and-coming artists. He's also a brown belt in jiu-jitsu and most recently dabbling in the microbrew business at the Thousand Oaks, California-based Tarantula Hill Brewing Company. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's get the show on the road. Join me in welcoming my friend, John Edney. What's up, fella?
Hey, John, thank you for making the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
So this whirlwind tour of Southern California has been a wild one. We've been all over the goddamn valley talking to people. And so, but this is maybe the day that I look most forward to. Johnny and I go back quite a few years, and in the last, 5 or so years, only see each other maybe every couple. And so it's always a good time and a great pleasure to catch back up with Johnny and see how things are going.
Likewise.
Lots of changes over the years, but I think more or less the same. So it's kind of fun.
And it's a first for me. I've heard about this guy for like 15 years now, and I didn't believe Ryan knew you. I thought he was just...
Well, it's pretty funny. So, because Mike came to me, basically, I was running around with the Mix Mob guys back in the day, and Mix Mob came through Pocatello, Idaho, our hometown, with Cottonmouth Kings. And the guy that ran the club there needed some extra gear, some lights or whatever. And Mike was a mobile DJ back then and had all that stuff.
I had stuff. I didn't have good stuff. I had like sound-activated vertigo lights. It was bad.
But, it's a little club in Pocatello. They didn't have anything better. So and we had a writer to film. And so anyway, the club owner ended up connecting with Mike and brought him in to run some extra lights and stuff. And at that time is when I met Mike, and sort of he, knew me from that world. On this podcast not too long ago, we had Mix Mob on, and that was the first time Mike had met any of those guys. So all these years, a decade, or God, I don't even know how long, really, maybe 15 years.
Ryan was just fronting. I didn't believe him at all.
So anyway, so he got to meet, he got to meet all those dudes, and we were part of the show down in Salt Lake, and they actually just played a couple nights ago in San Diego and dropped a new album, which is kind of fun. So kudos to those dudes. But 10 years ago, or what is it, the 20th anniversary, right? So 20 years ago when they broke up, my God, we're getting old. So 20 years ago, their band split, and one of the guys in that band, their bass player, Matt, had, dabbled in band after band after band, and eventually had joined Johnny's band, OPM. And somehow, one way or another, that's how I got the introduction and started palling around with these dudes. And I was sort of a staple or somebody that hung around a lot with SRH and Suburban Noise Records out here in Hollywood and in California. And they, I don't know, it's kind of incestuous, everybody knew each other. And so it sort of just worked out. I did, I think, just a couple little mini tours with OPM. And then Johnny and I have worked on a number of different things together, little projects and ideas for different things. In addition to sort of, the original iteration of MNO. So anyway, that's sort of how this came to be. Basically, we hit up Johnny, being that we were in California and with the podcast, and I thought this would be a cool opportunity to sort of just talk about life, talk about the history, and talk about where we're going.
Well, I'm actually really excited just to discuss the progression of a performing artist getting notoriety, then moving on with life, right. and going to the next step.
Yeah, so maybe that's the place to start. Let's talk a little bit about just sort of where you're from, how you got started, were you always into music, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I grew up in Thousand Oaks. Sorry, my mic is sounding.
Maybe you're running through a splitter.
Yeah, you sound
so it's
fine.
probably what it is.
Yeah, you sound fine to me.
Okay.
You sound better than me to me, so that's perfect.
I was like, whoa, here I sound like a robot. What you were just talking about. Sorry. So yeah, I grew up in Thousand Oaks, and it's a very conservative town. I guess that's a good way to explain it. It's kind of like, it reminds me of like the city that Footloose was in,
Oh,
where it was like
no dancing, don't have fun.
No dancing, no fun. And I just wanted to have fun. So yes, I was always into music. I was kind of the guy there was a record shop down the street. I think it was called Record Outlet. That was next door to the E.T. Donuts, which had video games. So that was my world.
That match made in heaven.
Yeah, exactly. And there was this really cool older guy who was probably in his 20s, when I was really young, because he was older to me then, but punk rocker dude. And he would, spend time with me and turn me on to like new stuff. And that kind of became my thing. I kind of, the guy that all my friends knew was going to bring in the something crazy. And then, so, basically grew up, that culture was it was, surf, punk rock, skate world. That's the world that I lived in. And then the 90s happened, and there was NWA.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Which to me at that time
it's amazing to me how many like alternative and like not hip hop guys will reference NWA as one of their influences.
Because if you grew up punk rock, when that happened, that was the most punk rock thing.
Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
Nothing.
No one had done anything like that
since the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
There was the Sex Pistols, and then there was versions of it, and then there was NWA.
Right.
That's punk rock, pretty much. And me as a musician too, happily will say couldn't even be remotely as punk as any of this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm cool with that. So those are our gods, I guess to say. So I shifted from that to wanting to be a rapper basically at that point. And kind of my introduction to music as a musician was a lot of times we have DJs, like I'm sure this happens to you all the time, and someone comes up to the booth like, you got a mic on there?
Yeah, dude, yeah, I brought my CD, bro. I got my beats right here.
Yeah.
And you have no clue what you're...
I'll freestyle. Right? That was me.
Yeah.
So I often did that at parties, but and I got pretty good at freestyling, and I would kind of all my friends were at the party, and I would just be talking shit about everybody at the party, and so it became, kind of a thing that happened, and it was fun. And then there was a band. There was like one band in town that played at the parties, and they were doing like metal covers. They were doing like Limelight and Motley Crue.
But metal.
Yeah,
metal.
Yeah, Motley Crue. But and I was like, I gotta be. And they always had trouble finding like a front man for the band, and I really wanted to be the front man in that band, but I couldn't sing. So that I couldn't sing like Vince Neil. From
It's
Motley
problematic.
Crue. Yeah,
hard to be in a Motley Crue cover band if you don't have those pipes.
Exactly. But I was like, dude, what if you guys just play metal and I rap? And they were
Did
like,
that go over well?
But ironically, the bass player from that band, I'm still friends with him, came up 2 years later. He's like, dude, you invented Korn and Limp Bizkit. And fucking, like,
yeah, it's true. I mean, given that time frame, there's nothing like that at the time.
He was like, dude, you were so ahead of your time. And I was like, yeah, it was inevitable that was going to happen, because I'm sure that, like Fred Durst, similar. If you asked him, he would probably say the same thing about like NWA happening, and like, grew up on metal, punk rock, and then all of a sudden there was like, fuck, I can rap,
and not have to worry about necessarily hitting an E every time, and and
lots of flat notes.
Exactly. So that was Thousand Oaks, and then I left there when I was probably 17, and and swore I would never go back. And that's funny about
it's sort of
the brewery now. It's like sucking me back in. And
I love too that it's a brewery. So the place is super conservative anyway. Yes. And now it's not just homecoming for you,
and
but it's also
John.
It's Johnny, and I'm bringing beer.
And I'm coming to have a good time. Yeah. But I don't know if we're jumping on a tangent here or head. This kind of I felt like was going to end up later if we're talking about the brewery. But
it doesn't really matter. We can flex.
So just on this in particular, the town has not changed
at all
since I've been there.
Is there another? There's no other brewery in town, or
this is the very first brewery in Thousand Oaks.
Oh wow!
So they actually, it's finally caught up to them. They've been so good at not letting things change, and they're not being fun, that now there's no motivation for young people.
That's Pocatello
to leave. To live there.
Right. So everybody's leaving.
It's all young people leave now, and then the old people don't spend money. Right. And like a city is a business. You have to run it like a business. There has to be money circulating. It's a great city. Like they have the greatest fire department and the greatest police department and the greatest public school there, but the people that are keeping it that way aren't the ones who are going to pay for all that nice stuff. So they've come to the realization, I think the city has, that you got to make this, like it's one of the greatest places on earth to live. Like I never realized how lucky I was to live. Like I was born into Southern California. Like and it's beautiful out there, and
so you left.
Yeah, I left.
Where'd you go to?
I went pretty much straight to Hollywood.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a couple of detours. I lived in Austin for a little bit. Things
that
like
was before Austin was cool, though. Like now's the time to live in Austin.
Yeah, I know, right? See, I was ahead of the curve there too.
Yeah, man, you got to start following that gut, man. I don't know what you're doing.
So, So anyway, some people, I think they hired a consultant or whatever to come in and kind of help them sort of revitalize the city. And he's like, millennials are the people who have money to spend, and you need to attract them. And so they're like, you have no brewery. You don't let anyone brew beer here. So let's start with that. And they opened up the permit. And so I guess we can get into the details of how that'll happen. But yeah, that's the irony of this, that's what it is.
Now you're back.
Coming
full
it's
circle. Funny. Yeah, it's a real Lion King moment.
I was trying to think of that. I know that someone needs to do that. Someone needs to be seen holding up a little baby lion right now.
So cool. All right. So as a young kid, so about 17 years old, you moved into Hollywood, presumably to chase musical aspirations?
Wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted
to get away,
more, stimulation and fun. Yeah. I basically, I met a guy through a friend of mine who's a girl. She started dating this guy, who worked in the music industry, and we hung out one night, and he's like, dude, I've been working in the industry for a long time. And and we were talking about music, obviously. And, he was like, you know more about music than most people I work with. And you'd think that people that work in the industry would know about music. He said, but a lot of them, it's just a job. And they don't know. And he kind of was implying that the people who are passionate about music and do know, have a large knowledge, sort of excel in the industry because
it's not everybody.
It's not everybody's, and you should be.
Yeah, no, it's funny hearing that because a lot of things are making sense.
Yeah.
Given where the industry has come and gone and everything, clearly not run by people who are passionate about music.
No. And because it's a commodity, and so people, there's anywhere where there's money, people will go and look at a way to just take some of that money.
Yeah.
But so anyway, so he sort of took me under his wing and helped me find a job down there. And I got started as an intern at Island.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
That was my first gig actually was at Mercury. He got me in to meet this woman, and I met with her, and she was like, I got to get rid of my assistant. I'll tell you're hired, whatever. You start Monday. So I walked into my boss. At the time I was a maintenance man, right? So the deal with a maintenance man is that you live on the property. They give you free rent. They pay all your bills, and then they give you some spending cash, basically. But your whole world is this thing,
on call,
you're on call,
24/7,
exactly, and all that stuff. Which I could tell you stories about that situation.
I'm recording. Yeah. We got a problem.
Yeah. But anyways, so I walked into my boss and I was like, fuck you, here's my keys. I fucking quit. I got a fucking real job. I'm moving to Hollywood, And I show up there Monday morning and I go to the front desk and I'm like, hey, I'm reporting. They're like, okay, have a seat. She'll be right down.
And she didn't remember the conversation
like an hour
at all.
late. Goes like 2 hours ago. Yeah. She's like, finally my friend called her and she's like, I'm so sorry, but like me and my assistant, we made up over the weekend and I'm going to keep him.
And now you're jobless. You burnt the bridge.
Jobless and homeless.
Oh, man.
So my buddy felt so bad that he's like, dude, come live on my couch until you find another thing and get on your feet, whatever. But you're going to get a job down here.
That's a true friend right there.
Yeah. No, and he didn't even know me, like he was, and we became great friends, and I'm forever in his debt for that. Jay Schatz, if you're listening.
Shout out.
He's not going to be listening. But anyways, so then I did eventually get an internship, which which extended my life of my living on his couch, basically, because it was unpaid.
Right.
And then eventually they hired me as a scout, which got me some money, and I was able to kind of get on.
As a scout, you just go to all the shows in town and see who you like.
This was at the time when like they signed bands by your performance at the Troubadour or the Roxy or the Whiskey.
Oh, that's awesome.
Crazy.
That's a pretty fun gig.
That's how it should be. I mean, like that's what they're selling really is their their show, and that's what's going to put people in the doors and sell the tickets, and the album's just a bonus.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
If you can
anyway.
sound good up there, then you can probably record a good record, right? Yeah, it was crazy. And so LA at the time was so dominant in the industry because in New York, you can't have a rehearsal room because there's no space there.
Space.
No one can afford that much room or whatever. So LA, obviously it's more spread out and there's tons of rehearsal rooms and whatever, bands could get really good and whatever. So yeah, it was an amazing job. I could get into any club in Hollywood with my business card.
Yeah.
So I was just bawling out of control, on like $1,500 a month, and then everyone I hung out with was also, A&R guys or, other people in the industry, and they had expense accounts. So like, you go out and you're eating for free, drinks are free. Like it was
just living it up.
Insane.
And you were like 23 at this time.
Yes.
Right?
I was like 22. Yeah. 23.
That's awesome.
And traveling, going to the South by Southwest when it was cool.
Yeah. Before it became a tourist trap.
South by Southwest.
With the roaming Wi-Fi.
South by Southwest LLC.
Yeah. And trips to New York quite often, and my hanging out with my boss Lori, she was amazing, and she had an endless Amex card too. So, and then I also, it was the Island, which was Bob Marley's label.
Yeah.
So the people that were kind of attracted to that world were kind of that thing. And so I became the inter-office weed dealer, which turned out to be very lucrative business.
Yeah, especially at
everyone
Island,
in there smoked weed, right? So, and it was funny because this guy who was trying to get signed, I wanted to be signed, so they were very U2-ish.
Yeah.
And also, we also had U2. And so it was their dream label, right? And so like he was giving me like, quarter pound of weed for like $100, like just trying to be, like, he was probably growing it. He was just trying to get in with me or whatever.
Yeah.
He became my guy, where so the profit margin was quite high. Working the system there made it very
lucrative.
Yeah. It was a great time. And then during that process, a big part of my job also was logging in demos. And if they came in, a lot of times the demos are coming in from important people. And so they need to be, but they're coming into also every day. The mail guy, his name was Kermit. Amazing. He would come to my desk and fucking
There you go.
Dump 200 demos on you.
Yeah. And CDs and whatever. And so I had to filter through that stuff and find the ones that were important people so it's
100% your ear pretty much.
I was the first layer of the filter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would filter through it, and then she would, if there was 1,000 CDs, she wanted me to bring her 10,
Yeah.
And she was very specific about what she wanted.
So when you listen to a CD as a band, if you're putting the tracks on the CD, there's an actual art to it. What would you recommend a band should do as far as like first track, layout, format of the CD if they're submitting it to a label? Like, is there anything that stands out to you that bands did?
The only thing that a major label cares about is being able to get you onto the radio, a commercial, a film, whatever.
So like I'm talking more like, do you put your first track first and then the one that you think's going to hit, and then like
not only do you put your first one for your best one first, that best one better have that hook in the first 15
seconds. Yeah. So
Well, yeah,
because
'cause
that's all you really have time to listen to. If you have 1,000 CDs on your desk and you have to filter through them, you're not going to spend more than 40 seconds on each.
I need to know in a couple of seconds if I want to keep listening to this for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to imagine people did some pretty funny things back then. I'm sure now a lot of people just shoot over MP3s or whatever, but back then, I'm sure people were trying to do things to be noticed, making cool packages or cool whatever. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some cool stuff coming across.
Yeah, like some of them were like full presentations, and you're just like, rip it out,
throw it away
for the CD, And then some of it was so corny, you're like, I'm not even going to listen to that.
Yeah.
Like, you should have just sent me a blank CD, and I probably would have listened to it. But anyways, also during that process, listening to it, not ever really even aspiring to be a musician, I was like, dude, I could do better than 99% of this stuff.
Yeah.
With no skills.
Yeah.
Like, these people are clueless.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get guys.
I've seen American Idol.
Yeah. And you get like, some people are so talented or whatever and still can't figure it out. And then there's people like the American Idol who just have no talent, and
mom told them they were great for a lot of years, so they just ran with it.
Yeah. So during that time, I started thinking, I was like, man, I should probably start writing some songs, and I started at that point. And then during my time there, I'm really making my story very long because we're like still in the very, very beginning.
Oh, it's fine.
Sorry.
Yeah.
During that time there, Island sold. At that point, they were the largest independent label in the world.
Oh, wow.
They were still an independent, and they had U2.
Yeah, U2.
You know what I mean?
Come on.
And so they sold for a lot of money. And Chris Blackwell, who was the owner, he owed U2 so much money, they got a huge chunk of that. I think they got like 40% of the sale.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And right away, he was still meant to be the CEO of the label. And also he came with a film company. There was Island Films at the time. And right away things went bad. And he quit. He left. And new regime came in and whatnot, and it started to kind of crumble. So everyone was like, I right away started looking for a job.
Yeah.
You know, so I got out of there. I went to work for a management company that managed the top 10 record producers in Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
Brendan O'Brien, Chris and Tom Lord Alge, they were mixing everything that was on K-Rock at that time.
Yeah.
And so on and so on. And I saw at that point Brendan O'Brien who produced and mixed all the Pearl Jam and Rage Against the Machine records.
That was what studio was that at? I think it was. I saw a documentary.
He owns his own studio. I'm pretty sure they would have all done them in his studio. But
Okay,
I
might be getting mixed up. The documentary was a Foo Fighters documentary, and it was like talking about
here in the valley where Nirvana did that. Record.
Yeah. And it was a Neve board, and he ended up buying the board.
He bought the board.
And then what he did with it is he came back through and started re-recording the artists again with it and doing like a live thing. And it's really cool. If you get it, I can't remember. It's like Sessions or something like that. It's on Netflix. If you get a chance, look it up. It's a really good documentary. Anyways, sorry.
I have some good Dave Grohl stories too, if we want to get into that.
By all means.
Yeah, of course.
However this goes.
Yeah, then we can tag him.
All right, we'll get. I'll put that in chronological order.
Okay.
When we get there. Anyways, my point of working at the management company was I saw one of his royalty checks from, international. Or I saw all of his checks, to be quite honest, but some of them that came in for like, his royalties on like Pearl Jam records, for the world, and I was like, it was like, oh my God, I need to be doing this. So at that point, I got a studio, and I was making good money at this place now, because I was kind of like, mid-management level. I kind of stepped up. And this manager also is, I could talk to you for days about this guy who I worked for, he's basically Oz of the music industry. He's the man behind
the guy.
Yeah. Just the little time I got to be around him, how much I learned, like, guy's a genius. But he's a very powerful person in Hollywood, whatever. So some of the people who I was talking about, like I was running around Hollywood with before, A&R guys and stuff like that, knew that I went in there, and they're like, oh, he's on the inside. So they were all very curious to see
what you were listening to in your car.
Listening to, right? And if things were coming in that door that maybe weren't signed yet, and looking for a deal kind of stuff. So that got them very curious. And this job was very the opposite. Like these people weren't going out and being seen. Like this manager has never been photographed ever, like crazy. And like the building that we're in was specifically designed that he had his own parking spot in the garage,
straight to an
elevator, and the elevator went right into his office, kind of thing.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. He's pretty G.
Mastered being antisocial.
Yeah. And so I started thinking, I was like, this would be the time for me to like make a demo, and so I did. My sister's boyfriend at the time was just put together a little home demo studio. I was like, why don't you come down here and let's work on some tracks? And he did, and we put together a demo, and I went, and then there was also this thing back at the time that was called Hits Magazine, and there was a column writer, and he had a little block every week, and it was called Wheels and Deals. And it was like every A&R person subscribed to his magazine, and they opened up that Wheels and Deals, and this guy, he had the inside scoop.
Who did he work for?
He worked for Hits Magazine.
Well, yeah, but like, was he doing your job for Hits Magazine, and he just kind of got
just
not
a
really
dude
sure.
on the inside?
I don't, but everyone knew that he was the guy to kind of...
He had the ear that...
If you were smart and you were trying to get your band signed, you made sure that he knew about it.
Okay.
Right? And so, I don't know if that's actually how it went down, but I was like, I'm the smart guy that knows this secret.
Yeah.
Right? So, but the key was, though, is that he got his information from A&R people.
Oh, so it's kind of like
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So I knew that if I could get an A&R guy to say that they would sign this band, then I could call that guy and say, this person from this record label is about to sign this band. And then what happens is, the way the record labels are, it's like people at a garage sale, right? Like nobody wants any of your junk until someone's like, I want that.
Yeah.
How much
Right.
is that? And then everyone's like, oh, I want that. Right? So that's how it works. So once you were in hits under that thing and this guy said, I'm going to sign you, everyone starts trying to find that band and get him, and they want to get him before he gets it. What is it? What's hot? What's worth? Because at that point, like, you signed a band, you were dumping $1 million
Yeah.
just to make the record
Yeah.
at that point. So that's a pretty heavy investment, and like, you better be pretty sure about signing a band
Sure.
at this point. It was a different time, you know? So, I won't say who the guy's name is because I kind of, you know, I'm telling you
Yeah.
the story of how
Yeah.
I manipulated the system. But I went to someone who I knew would bite,
Yeah.
right? And it was someone
Well,
who,
it's just common sense.
Yeah.
It's like, why not?
yeah.
You know?
And I went to a guy and I was like, dude, I didn't tell him it was me. I said, check this shit out. These guys are going to fucking be huge. Check this out. And he's like, psh, bring them in. They're signed. Done deal.
10 days later, it's you.
No shit.
Yeah, just hand me a pen.
I called the dude. I had no intention of signing to that label,
Yeah.
you know, but I knew that there would be, you know, if I played it right, there'd be a bidding war and I would get to pick whatever
one?
label I wanted. And so it all sent the dude the thing. He put it in the thing. Next thing I know, I'm getting calls from everybody. We're going to, you know, obviously Atlantic is who we went with. Elektra, Virgin, Interscope came in, which wasn't as big of a deal as they are now at this point. Then, and Island actually even popped up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They kind of seemed like they weren't maybe interested, but it was like a courtesy thing, I think, because I had history there or something. I don't know. But,
Yeah.
I would have loved to
What-
have gone with them even there.
What time frame is this? Like 98?
So this is 98,
Okay.
I'd say. Yeah,
Because the album that I know you guys from, I think came out in 2000.
2000.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we do the deal with Atlantic, and mostly just based on the fact that like they signed Led Zeppelin. I was like, that's the coolest ever.
Yeah.
But you know, could have probably done a better deal. We should have signed a West Coast label looking back, because we're very West Coast deal, you know, and they're Atlantic. They're on the Atlantic Ocean. I'm Pacific. I should have signed to Pacific Records. There wasn't such a thing. Yeah. And then we went in, we did that record. We spent $1 million on a record, as you did at that time.
Yeah. I mean, just to get the studio times right.
Yeah.
You
Just to get
best
the
studio,
final product,
best
yeah.
producer, best everything.
Who did you record with?
So there was interesting. What the A&R guy from Elektra was very interested in signing us as well, and at that time it was called WIA, which was Warner Elektra Atlantic. So they were sister companies. So it became very political that who was going to win this battle between Elektra and Atlantic, and the two presidents of the companies were like also best friends, and so it was kind of like, all right, you can go to Atlantic, but then this other guy is going to produce your record. And his name was Josh Deutsch, and we were signed by Craig Kellman, so they were buddies. And then we started working on here's the deal: you're in Josh world. He's a big baller executive in New York, so we're gonna go worked at the Axis Studio, which was in the Studio 54 building in the penthouse.
Oh, wow.
And so we're like, fuck, we could go to New York. Let's do it. Little did we think about, like, you know, New York is not our element at all. But
did it hinder the creativity process? Or the
oh, for
recording?
sure.
Yeah.
It was. We went into meltdown. Like, it was crazy. I mean, we had the demos and we started working on the demos, and like you said, we had like top engineers and all that stuff going on, but you know, we're like, and then, you know, studio time's crazy. Like, you know, you're sitting around doing nothing a lot of times. So we're out like running all over in New York, like trying to find drugs and be rock stars, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like New York is crazy. So so then it was like coming up to like Thanksgiving or something, and everyone's going to go home for the holidays, and they're like, why don't we mix Heaven is a Halfpipe real quick and just see what we got before we take our break, and then we'll come back and reevaluate. And at the time, Michael Patterson, who ended up mixing it, he was working for Puffy, and Puffy had his studio, Daddy's House, which is right down the street. And they're like, why don't we have him mix it? We went over there, we met him, and he's like killing the mix. And he's like, what are you guys doing in New York? Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are so wrong here, you know? And he's like, look, I'm going home. I live in LA, and I'm going home for the holidays. Why don't we go, you know? And we, like, part of the deal also part of my mass plan that this whole thing worked out was that part of the deal was that I had my studio that I said when I was working in a management company, I got myself, instead of moving into a nice apartment,
you moved into a nice studio. I moved
into an empty studio and lived in it.
Yeah. I would do the same thing if the opportunity presented itself.
So, and then when we got the deal, I had them fill my empty studio with all of the gear that you see before you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
nice.
That was my deal. So,
so this is what you recorded Heaven is a Halfpipe on.
Yeah. This is the same. Most of that stuff is the same stuff I've had for 20 years.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like the Pro Tools. And
yeah, it's an upgrade.
I still have that computer in my attic.
Did you do that on tape back then?
9600. No, we were like, my first recording ever was digital. Always, never touched tape.
Interesting, because that's a whole nother craziness right there.
Yeah. So so we went back, and Michael Patterson came into our studio in LA, which was my home, and we started working, and we're like, this is how we're doing the rest of this record. And so we kind of did that there. And
was that this studio, or has it relocated?
This was the original MNO Studio in Hollywood, which is now it's like probably a parking lot.
Yeah.
It was I moved because I signed my lease there in like 97 or something like that, 98 or in that time. And now that I'm thinking about it, because I left in 2008 and it had been over 10 years. But so and I was like in East Hollywood, and in 1998, East Hollywood was still really seedy, and there was a pimp named Panama who operated. There was a payphone across the street from my studio, which was where he operated his business from. The girls would stand at the payphone that didn't actually even work. You know, it was still there because it was.
Wow.
And there was a little hotel around the corner where they would zip it in and out, and he was, whatever. So,
shout out to Panama.
Yeah, Panama. He was gangster. Yeah, every day different. He would drive a Lincoln Town Car rentals. Every day, different color.
Wow.
Every day went in, turned it in, got a new one.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's crazy.
Did his suits match the cars though?
He did wear suits. Yeah,
that's awesome.
They were also very colorful. Yeah,
I love that.
So you get the studio set up. He comes back from New York and mixes and records the first album.
We had done like maybe like 4 or 5 songs in New York that were still sort of, that was the meat and potatoes of them, but the rest of the record we did back in LA. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So from there, Heaven is a Halfpipe is sort of the big hit from that first album. But how did that get traction? Like, how did it? Like, who spotted it and got it on the radio?
At that time, it was K-Rock was the tastemaker of the world.
Mm-hmm.
If you could get on K-Rock and the people called in and requested to hear it again, they would continue to play it. And if you got into the rotation,
then it would expand from there.
Their playlist was faxed or emailed or whatever it was to the rest of the radio stations in the country, and then that was their playlist.
Oh, wow.
They literally copied
probably
K-Rock's
media base or whatever, isn't it? Yeah.
So we got into they put us on K-Rock, and it would actually hit a couple radio stations even before that. Like, 'cause I remember we were rehearsing in Santa Cruz, and all of a sudden we were just in the car, and like they were like the song came on, and then we're like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden it was like a Battle of the Bands thing or whatever, and like we won this thing, and we were like we were rehearsing this time like for like weeks, like we were just the number one song on this thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then it hit K-Rock, and then it was we got into heavy rotation, which meant you're getting like 30 spins a week or something like that. And then, it went all across the country.
I was telling you before we started, I knew you guys from Heaven is a Halfpipe. And I texted a homie who's in the radio kind of scene up in Seattle to see if he knew anyone from that time frame to get the story.
Yeah.
But what I think happened is that first Jesus Packing My Bong line, I think it got out and it just got a lot of negative calls. And so I heard it on 107.7 like multiple times. And then I went and got the album, and then it just wasn't on the air anymore.
Yeah.
So I think, moms called in and had an issue.
That's so crazy.
But yeah, I like, that's one of my favorite songs to date. I love that song.
Well, so that song hit big in the States, but it also went international, right?
Yeah. So initially, so we went out right away. We started touring, and everything was doing great. And then we kind of got done with the run here, and they're like somewhere along the way, on tour in who knows, Florida or something, and some German dude shows up. He's like, I'm Ola. I'm from Germany. I'm the president of the record label. Or I think it was A&R guy at the time or something. And he's like, I'd like to bring you over there. And everyone at the label was kind of like, this isn't going to work here. And he's like, this is going to fucking work here. And he's like, but here's the deal. We're going to release Stash Up first.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the radio there, you can say, I don't give a fuck, not a single fuck, not a single song.
Yeah.
So you can say that over there. It's not a problem because it doesn't really mean anything to them. They know it's a bad American word. But
Right, but it doesn't have the same zip that it might on American radio.
Yeah. So we did that, and it kind of brought us in with like this. But then the kids who do know what it means, like, oh yeah, these guys are crazy,
Yeah. Well,
And
and for people who don't maybe know that song, like, I mean, it's super catchy. It's easy to sing along with. It's got the hook. I mean, it's got all the stuff you need to sort of make that hit.
Yeah. And it was enough to be like, it instantly created a spark, and then they dropped Heaven is a Halfpipe, and it just blew up. And this was like when he just wanted to see if we were cool to go over there, and we agreed to. And then this all happened, and he went back and made that happen, kind of a thing. And like when we got off the airplane in Germany, we were signing autographs.
Wow.
Like walking through the airport.
Wow.
Like,
that's awesome.
From the video, And then here's another key thing to that too, is that the Atlantic, the video commissioner at Atlantic was such a nightmare. We wanted to do, my idea for the video was, I don't know, do you guys remember the movie Search for Animal Chin?
No.
It was a movie that was like on VHS that they had at our library that we could rent and watch. It was like Powell Peralta was one of their
Did you rent the VHS player too while you were at it? Remember when?
Yeah, they had them. You could check them out. Yeah.
No, they were bawling by then. They had their own
No,
VHS
this
player.
is when I was a little kid, right? And we used to watch that movie, and I thought that we should do like a recreation of that film and like make it look like it was a VHS tape. You know what I mean?
It's all staticky and
yeah. And the video, I remember the video commissioner. She's like, nobody cares about skateboarding, so let's just whatever. And like, so we got railroaded into hiring this direct video director who was a European guy, and he did the video. The video's, it is what it is. It's a cool video. They spent $300,000, which you can make a feature film for today,
Yeah.
And the video came out, and we were kind of like, what is this? It was weird, like it was just weird. We didn't get it. And then all of a sudden, and so we didn't get any MTV play here, which MTV was already at that time kind of not, phasing out,
Starting
playing
to
videos.
phase out videos.
Yeah, starting to play more shows anyway. So it was really difficult to get on MTV at that time. But we get to Europe, and it's on the TV all day, every day. And the other couple videos that they would sprinkle in between our video looked exactly like it.
Oh, so it was fitting their
fit
style.
for Europe.
Yeah.
Right.
The video looked like what their videos looked like.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And then another sort of, all these things that were kind of perfect storms for us. At that time, Germany, there was this crazy underground hip hop scene bubbling in Germany. And obviously we know the history of Germany, and they were kind of like, this is a weird thing. Like, is it okay for us to rap?
Oh,
They were very self-conscious of it. And our song, me being on there, being a dude who rapped 16 bars on a, some Southern California track that they don't have no concept of, but it's this white dude rapping.
Mm-hmm.
was validation for them. And not that I was the only one, because there's,
It's okay. Don't be humble, man. You set hip hop on its ear in Germany.
Yes, exactly. Me and David Hasselhoff are the two most influential Americans in Germany for music.
Beats being the guy that affirmed it was okay to start doing scat porn over there. So I think you're in a better spot than that, dude.
Goodness. But like Papa Roach was basically rapping too, but they were disguising it with the metal. But and Eminem was obviously already a thing too. But I think Eminem was like not an obtainable goal.
It was too big for him, kind of.
He's too good.
Yeah.
No, still nobody's as good as him.
Yeah.
Technically, right?
Yeah.
So like, that was like that's a different universe. Like I'm not going to be that good. So why even try to do that? But then someone like me, I'm just basically. The reason why I got signed, basically, when you boil it down, it goes back to what I was talking about with those demos, was like, I didn't think I was going to be able to write better songs than these people. I just knew I was cool.
Yeah.
And it sounds stupid to say, but I can say it now that I'm in my mid-40s, right? Like when I was 22, I was cool. I was cooler than most people.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I couldn't say it because you're not allowed to say that when you're a guy, whatever. But that was what the appeal was. And I knew how to make things look cool. Mm-hmm. Right. And I knew how to put all these pieces together, and that was cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a talented rapper. I'm not a talented singer. Right.
But you had the right pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah. People wanted to see something cool, and Southern California is cool.
Well, and that's a super punk rock attitude too, because it's so much attitude more than it is vocal chops or whatever.
Yeah. Eazy-E is not a good rapper. I'm not going to say anything worse than that, but he's not a good rapper. He didn't even write his rhymes. We all know that Ice Cube wrote all the rhymes that he did, but he's the coolest fucking rapper there ever was.
Right.
Because he owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just something about him. He has a something. And
and he was, as fucked up as he was one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't have to be Ice Cube. All I had to do was be Eazy-E, and I can slay this shit.
Right.
That was my thing. I've never claimed to be a dope MC and try to battle people on the MIC. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just was like, you know what?
I'm here. This is what I do.
I'm cooler than you are, so I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, when you're over there working out whatever you're working on, I'm just going to be chilling because it's easy for me, and and your girlfriend's going to come over and sit next to me while you're doing that shit because I got time.
Yeah,
right. That was my thing. Make it look like it was easy.
So how was it easy for? Were you always a poet, or did you
Of course, it's not easy.
Yeah,
it's the key is to make it look like it's easy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's that coolness, right? That's that slickness.
Yeah.
And so even if it is a struggle, that's not what people see.
Yeah. No, exactly. I remember when I was a kid, there was a commercial that ran. It was like for deodorant or something. It was never let them see you sweat. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, that slogan stuck in my head. And I was like, yeah, you can't let them see. Even if you're fucking sweating under your shirt, you can't let them know,
Well, and it's, as true today as it ever was.
Yeah.
I mean, look at these Elon Musk types or whatever,
Yeah.
It's nothing but badassery out front. But he's probably just a nerd that sits home and reads the newspaper.
Yes, exactly.
He's got the weight of the world on top of him with the companies and the all the new stuff he's working on and all these things. But you never see that. You just see the new Tesla in space or whatever it is, And it's so you're seeing the cool part, not the part up to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, my skills, if you're a white dude in Germany,
were attainable.
They're attainable.
Yeah.
You could rap better than me pretty quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And especially in the German language, it's very clickety clackety packety pack pop night hits. It was like it really. Unfortunately, for them, that people in America aren't open to like listening to their stuff. But like their stuff was killing it. Like really cool shit. I don't understand a word they were saying, but like the flows are just gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever have like them open for you there while you're
on tour?
We
did all kinds of shows, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. And actually that guy Ola, he had one of the labels that was an imprint on there it was a label called Kopfnicker, and it was just straight underground hip hop label. So we got exposed. That's how I got exposed to all that stuff.
Are they still around?
I don't know. Probably not. Yeah.
Interesting.
And at that time too, then all of a sudden at that time, the Germans loved everything American. Another part of this perfect storm, right? So like we did festivals over there, and we did a tour basically, and it was Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, Linkin Park, OPM. 3 Doors Down was before us, something like that. A couple other, that was a show.
That's an amazing show, actually.
Exactly. And there, 60,000 people.
Wow. And they're not as regulated over there as they are here, as far as like they could put 300,000 people in there if they want, or it's like it's not quite the same, is it?
Not quite the same, but these ones are. The Germans are very. They follow the rules, and
that doesn't sound like the Germans I know.
Yeah, they're
engineer types.
Yeah, everything is very
precision,
in order and precision. Yeah, they're amazing. Like, yeah, no, yeah, they're yeah. It was pretty much, this was like, Rock am Ring was one of them, and it's inside like the Porsche testing racetrack.
Really?
Wow.
And they build this stadium in the middle of it. So yeah, so like Porsche isn't gonna like be letting like some crazy thing get out of control.
That. Right.
Yeah, so that was well. And then the English people at this time were talking about, we're not going to go, that's not going to work here. That's not going to work here. And then at the end of sort of our cycle of Germany, and Germany was like a trip. Like we were doing MTV interviews like weekly, like, Viva was as big as MTV over there. We were on that show, that thing constantly, just TV and radio and just constantly, traveling, whatever. And then when we got kind of the end of that cycle, someone decided to go ahead and pull the trigger in England, and we went over there.
And you kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
So going from, we've covered a lot of the band.
Yeah.
All right. You've got a studio at your house now. We've talked a little bit about the brewery. How far until it's kind of on its own way?
Well, hang on just a sec. What do you think? And so we should say, and normally we'd do this like sort of off the air if we were real pros. But so we're joined by Rico. He's just walked in the studio.
What's up, Rico?
Rico's one of Johnny's buddies. He's on a band or got a band on MNO, and we're going to be sort of fitting him into. But what I'm wondering, and Mike, just like I said, we're doing super unprofessional shop talk while we're on the air.
Well, that's what a lot of the people want to hear.
What do you think about breaking this baby into 2 episodes? And because, so when I joined or sort of jumped into the OPM world and suburban noise world, we're not even out past the first single yet. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of this story, and honestly, for me, it's intriguing because, I joined much later on. I unfortunately I didn't get to go to Europe with these clowns. So, although I guess Rico got to go, which kind of makes me feel bad because I've been around longer than Rico. But anyway, the story for me anyway is fascinating, and I'd like to keep it going, and I don't want to sort of stifle it by making Johnny hurry up or something.
Sure.
Okay.
And so my thought is, what if we, take a break? Let's talk to Rico real fast. I think maybe you needed to go get your kid at some point.
Yeah, I do.
Because I'm sure she's standing around waiting for that. So maybe we talk to Rico for a few minutes. You can jet and come back, and then we'll continue the story from jolly old England.
Sounds amazing.
Does that work for you?
Yep.
Yeah.
You want to just keep the tape rolling?
Yeah, just keep it rolling. So, screw it. We had this whole conversation on the air. We're not cutting it out. So, so we might as well just go, right?
Yeah.
Well, the best part about this is we don't know Rico. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah, no, this could be
yeah.
I can draw some generalizations. His name's Rico. He's brown.
Rico.
So I feel like I got a couple things. It looks like maybe a Cuba hat. So I don't know if we're making some
Puerto Rico.
So we're making a statement.
Yes.
So he's got a fantastic mustache.
He is an amazing human. So you guys will not be
amazing human.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So cool. So let's wrap with Rico for a few minutes, and we'll let Johnny run get his kid. Because the poor girl is standing around wondering where her father is.
Texting you, where the hell are you?
Okay. We're taking the break. I will go get her.
All right. Cool. So, welcome to the show, Rico.
What's up? Thank you very much.
So, tell us, we're basically starting at zero with you, man. So, let's get the whole story. Who are you? What do you do?
My name is Rico. I sing, play guitar, kind of just all-around performer.
So, and you've got a band on MNO, right?
So I got a band called Ease Up. We started about 2009. I started me and just one other guy. I was doing most of the writing and stuff, and kind of just threw together a band. been playing music ever since. You know,
Yeah?
a lot of original stuff. You know, I started out kind of just playing
Covers.
bar gigs and
yeah.
cover. Yeah, you know, 3-hour, 4-hour gigs and stuff.
Sure.
like
Just
that,
wherever
so.
you can get a little money.
Yeah, I still do it. You know? Still do it on the side.
Likewise,
You know?
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about the band. Like, sort of, where did it come from? I guess you guys are based here in SoCal, despite the Puerto Rico hat.
Yep.
So you guys are from this area.
So I'm born and raised Los Angeles. My mom's Puerto Rican. My
Okay.
dad's Mexican. But I was born and raised here
Dude,
in
dinner
LA.
had to be amazing.
Yeah, always. Especially when grandma came over.
Oh yeah.
So
Abuelita
yes.
can always make the beans. They're so good with the
Yeah,
beans.
Exactly. So I started kind of, you know, I've been a music lover my whole life, you know, when I was a kid, you know, singing and, you know, listening to all kinds of rock. And
What would be like your influencers?
so I will say my favorite band when I was growing up as a kid, like the first band I can consciously remember like buying records for was Queen.
Oh,
So
okay.
I would go to like whatever like sounds. There's a record store here in Westchester and called Soundsations, and I would go there and buy all their tapes that had Queen stuff that I didn't have. So I had all their tapes and would sing along to all those records, you know. So that was probably the biggest one when I was like through middle school, and then I started getting into like punk rock.
Okay.
I got a lot into punk. I got a lot of my musical influences from my brother and one of my older cousins. And so they loved a lot of the more hardcore punk stuff, and I was listening more melodic because, you know, I have my Queen influences, so I go for a lot of more melodic stuff.
Yeah.
So I jumped into like one of the my favorite bands were like basically NoFX,
Okay.
Rancid, and from Rancid is how I found Operation Ivy, and then that's how that kind of got me more into the ska stuff, and so then I, you know, slowly moved into more punk rock, ska in high school, and then out of high school was all reggae.
So I haven't heard any of your
So, yeah,
stuff.
I'm not supposed to admit to that. You're supposed to be a super fan.
well, like I said,
Yeah.
Just to give people a little bit of background. So when I hit up Johnny about doing the show, I was like, well, hey, you know, I know you work with musicians and stuff. I was like, you know, maybe you've got some buddies or somebody you could bring on. You know, we're trying to develop a backlog of shows and stuff, you know. So we're like, let's just interview some musicians and stuff while we're set up, you know. And so I think Johnny reached out to you about coming on. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit sight unseen, you know, so it's cool because it gives us an opportunity to learn basically everything about you.
Yeah.
But yeah, do forgive our naivety.
No, not at all. It's all
but
good,
by
man.
asking your influences, I was trying to figure out what your style and what type of music you play.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like a reggae-ish vibe?
Yeah, so it started off more as a reggae project, but it was always kind of influenced by ska and by punk rock.
Okay.
And then so I started. So it's mostly, that's what I'd say. It's more ska, punk, reggae with the reggae influence. You know.
Cool.
But we don't play anything very traditional. You know, it's all pretty California SoCal vibe.
Which is my favorite. I love it.
I love it, man. Yeah, I could listen to it all day. It's among my favorite genres. I have heard, I think maybe one single. You guys just put out an EP kind of recently, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, though, maybe before we get there, how did you come to know Johnny? How did you put together the relationship
with
MNO?
So I have a friend, his name is Moises. He sings in a band called Tomorrow's Bad Seeds. And he was working with Johnny on this other project that he was in called Life. And so he was coming to the studio, and you know, I don't live too far away. And so he hit me up one day when he was at the studio, and he's like, yo, I'm going over to this guy Johnny's house. You should come check out his studio. I was like, cool, yeah, I'm down. And so I cruised over. It was only like 10 minutes away. So I come over here, and then I meet Johnny, and then I realize, oh, this is Johnny from OPM.
You're like,
okay.
damn.
I was like, yeah.
And you're like, hey, I know those guys.
Yeah, I was like, this is tight. Okay, so I just kind of just started hanging out. Just whenever Moises was here in the studio, I'd come over and kind of just kick it, and we just talk and whatever, you know. He'd be doing recording, and then one day I got a call, and it was Johnny. Like, hey, I want to talk to you about possibly taking you on tour to UK. So this is probably, I mean, I've only known Johnny maybe a few months at this point, but I guess, you know, he was in a tight spot, and he was looking for somebody who was available, and I was fortunate that he called me.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
You know.
That's
So
cool. So go ahead.
You went on tour with them, and then you come back and start working on an album and an EP. Did you have your group together and kind of split for a while to go on that short tour?
Yeah. So I probably average like at least 100 shows a year with Ease Up.
Okay.
So at that, and probably back then it was more like 150 or 100.
How long had the band been together?
So like I
leading
said, the
up to
project started in 2009.
Okay.
So was it 2014 when we
So
went on
5, 6 years.
Yeah, you know, and so we've been around for a while, and I was just like, yo, I'm gonna go on tour for a month, and he was like, all right, cool.
Sweet.
So we, you know, kind of just took some time off.
Yeah.
I went on tour with Johnny, and you know, just from traveling all over Europe and stuff, you get to know somebody, you know. So
Yeah.
And once we got back, I was like, I'd love to do more work with you. I mean, I love the studio; it's close by for me too, and we kind of just started talking. We're like, well, let's do a record, you know, let's do a record deal. Let's sit down, let's put something down on paper, and then let's start recording. And so we've been recording with him ever since then. So that was like 2015.
Have you only done 1 or 2
yeah,
albums?
so we just did a 3-song EP with him. It's called Return to Sender. We released it this past April, and that was the first thing that we put out. Like before then, you know, we just life and shit and touring and everything.
Well,
you
it's
know,
hard
like,
for a band to get a good quality recording and get access to a studio like this,
right? Oh, absolutely. man.
without having that connection.
Well, and Johnny's got a lot of experience in production. He's obviously worked in your genre, so
Yeah.
I mean that helps to have those kind of expertise around.
Exactly.
So one of the great things, I guess, you know, for a band like yours coming out of Southern California is some of the, I guess, local influences, you know, some of the bands you get to play with.
Yeah.
Any favorites? Like I'm looking at a list here. I see some of my favorites, Expendables, Fishbone, and one of my longtime favorites, Pato Bantan.
Oh yeah.
And you guys have had the opportunity to play with a lot of these guys. Do you have any fun stories or life on the road stories or anything?
I mean, there's so many. You know, it's been a while. Man, there's so many cool bands we've been touring with. Recently, we've been touring with Tunnel Vision. Those are some good friends based out of San Clemente. Some of the old ones, I mean, you know, some of my favorites. So we were on tour with a band called Top Shelf. This is a band out of Ukiah, which is up in Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And we were playing this backyard party in Santa Barbara and Isla Vista. And we're having a great time. We had a crazy night the night before. This is like the Saturday night show.
Yeah.
So it's even crazier this time
Yeah.
because we're, you know, partying on top of partying.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
I've been there.
So we have a
We've been
buddy.
there.
We have a good buddy with us. His name is Donnie. He used to play in a band called Stranger, and he's a trombone player, and he brings his super nice trombone that he's always had for years. And we've been partying. We pretty much partied all day till the sun was coming up. And I remember this guy, like right before I passed out, this guy leaves his trombone just on the porch. Like we're kind of in a little community, right?
Yeah.
No one thinks anything. Just leaves his trombone right there. We all pass out. Wake up the next morning, it's gone.
Oh, no.
He's pissed.
Yeah, it's
He's
probably his
pissed.
baby. You know, it's like
This is
someone
like-
stealing your
I don't even know
favorite
how much
guitar.
it cost, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it was priceless to him, you know? And he's pissed. And so my guitar player is like, my guitar player Nate, he's trying to like kind of console him. And he's like, man, well, we're all sitting on a porch talking about it kind of. He's like, man, well, if it's going to make you feel better, you can punch me in the face. And he kind of just says it like, you know, just like not thinking he was really going to do it. Like the way he said it, you could tell. But not even a second later, you just
Boom.
boom. And then, you know, it didn't stumble him back or anything, but he was like not expecting it.
Bro, come on.
He was like, you know what? I was not expecting that, but I'm not gonna hit you back because I did ask for it.
That's awesome.
And of course, that's when we're all hungover, so it
A
was
little headache on top didn't help.
Man, there's too many stories, bro. You know? Like,
Yeah, no, it's a tough question. I know, and well, and especially because you've been in in the game for a little while now. You know, you start to amass a lot of stories. I just know, at least in my experience working with bands in Southern California, the bands that you get to work with are so top notch that you know, versus maybe some other markets and stuff. You know, or at least, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased just because all my favorites come from down here. So, but it's, I guess, you know, running in the same circle as you. You know, these are the same guys that I know as well.
Yeah.
So I have to ask. I'm sure not. It's not going to be the answer I want. But are you related at all to Eric Estrada?
No.
No.
I know. I've been asked that.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. You
4
kind of look
million
like him.
times.
You look like a young
Yeah.
Eric Estrada.
But I won't lie, and you know, I'll tell you that it definitely has gotten me laid before. Just assume, you know, you're like, I'll play this one. For
Yeah, you could
for
be
the
a young
night.
Eric Estrada. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
you know, I grew up in the '80s and stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
man,
Chips
dude,
was a
I
big
love
part of my
Chips,
life,
bro. I
man.
used to- I used to
That was
grow
my
up-
jam.
Yeah.
Well, you
So-
got the look going on
I
too.
know, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, dude. People ask me like, dude, are you growing that for? What was it? The Super Troopers?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ramathorn or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
You look like that guy.
Halloween costume
Yeah,
for 10 years in a row.
Totally.
Yeah, Rico's got a little bit of a cop stash going on. It's pretty great. I love it.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe let's talk a little bit about the music. Let's talk about the latest EP, some of the maybe inspiration behind it, and anything you'd like to share about that.
Right on. Well, it's called Return to Sender. It was kind of just, I mean, we hadn't put out new music in a while, and I had these songs that I kind of just had laying around, and I was like, man, we just need to record them. And then once I met up with Johnny, you know, I was like, well, we have our studio to do it. So, you know, we demoed them for like a year, or like it took us like a year and a half to just demo it.
Mm-hmm.
And then and one of them we hadn't even like actually finished, but we just brought it in here, and we're just gonna get after it. We had these 2 songs, and they're more ska, more of that ska punk style that I'm trying to like kind of gear my music more towards.
Uh-huh.
You know, before, like in the previous few EPs and the self-titled album, those were more kind of leaning on the reggae side. And I don't know, more recently I'm just kind of like, you know, I always
Get
grew
some
up
bounce
love
into it.
Got to
Yeah.
bring those
ska,
horns
you know?
in, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so these, well, actually we don't have any horns on this record, but we have before. We used to have a couple horn players that played with us, but you know, sometimes it's hard to pay for everyone. You know?
Yeah.
So we've kept it to mostly a 4-piece. You know, it's always kind of been that 4-piece, just two guitars, drums, bass. You know.
Yeah.
But this one, we were like, well, we want to go a little heavier. You know, so the title track, "Return to Sender," is definitely just a straight like ska punk style song. And it's kind of got to deal with missing people, missing things when you know, everything's moving so fast around you.
Yeah.
You're missing time to like reconnect with somebody, or you know, somebody from
Just
your past,
live.
or somebody that you're thinking about. You know, sometimes you think about them, you're like, oh man, remember that, and it's like, and then you just forget about it, and you forget to actually hit them up. You know, and it was kind of this thing about you know, trying to reconnect.
Yeah.
And then we had the second song on there. It's called "Turnaround," and it's another kind of ska punk song, and it's kind of just like a road touring kind of jam. Something I wrote when we were on tour with a band called Fortunate Youth. We did a cross country tour with them, and
Oh, cool.
at that time we took a keyboard player with us, and he's also really into punk rock and stuff like that. But we were kind of just threw around this idea of a turnaround, you know, when you're on the highway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the place where you're supposed to go back the other way. And so
You
he helped
missed
me
your
kinda-
exit in life, and you're
Right.
turning around. Yeah.
But there's the things that you just don't turn around. That's the
Yeah.
part of the song, you know. You just got to keep moving forward. You know, there's no point in going back sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
Very true.
So that's kind of that one. And then the third song on the EP is just actually kind of a version, is what we call it, of "Return to Sender." So it's the same song, same lyrics, just different vibe. It's not ska, it's not punk. It's kind of laid back, chill, more like reggae stylish.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Sort of a
So-
little back to the roots, kind of.
Yeah, you know. So, and kind of just stuck with those 3. Like, we had a couple other songs that we were working on, but we just wanted to get new music out. And I feel like nowadays, man, it's like to spend the time and the money to kind of to do a full album. Right now, I'd rather just put out singles. So,
Yeah.
like, we're currently
that's-
working on a new one with
It's
with
kind of
Johnny,
like
you know?
what the market's going towards, anyways.
Right, yeah.
They're not. The album mentality is kind of left, in
Right.
my opinion, anyways.
Yeah, and it's also like packaging it with other media, you know, and not just the sound.
Yeah.
So it's like that's something I'm trying to work on more now. Like, I don't really have a lot of the video content that a lot of other bands have, and it's important, you know. And so we're trying to package them now with the video. So we're working on a video right now for the new EP. Hopefully we'll release that, and then kind of tease. Off of that, we'll tease the new single that we're working on with Johnny.
It's a good call.
You know, and then just kind of keep doing that just on a single style, like release it with its own artwork, with its own video and.
Have you already done a shoot for the video, or is it still up
not
and
yet.
coming?
We're actually working. We're scheduling the shoot coming up. We're gonna be using one of our homies' studios, Grooveworks, over here in LA.
Nice.
I know
towards-
those guys.
Yeah, and then just kind of for one of the scenes, you know. But like, yeah, I got a homie Nate that we're working with. That's gonna help us put out some stuff. You know,
That's
try to
awesome.
put out some more content.
Yeah, that's got to be a whole different world. We were
Yeah.
talking to a guy, Project 86, and Andrew Schwab.
Mm-hmm.
He said that was the thing he hated the most, was doing the shoots.
Yeah.
Like, he loves doing the music and loves doing all this stuff, but it gets kind of weird sometimes for him.
Yeah, I don't have the eye for it either. You know,
Yeah.
like I mean, some people like can do it all. You know, and like. Or they have people who are looking out for them, you know, and like kind of we're all always doing our things by ourselves, but you know we have good people around us who, you know, try to keep us in the right direction as well.
That's good. Yeah.
So what's the future of V's-Up look like? What are you guys doing from here? I mean, do we have summer tour coming up? Do we have anything
No
going on?
tours coming on right now. I mean, we have shows here and there coming up. Mostly sticking around SoCal right now. We did a lot of touring over the last like 5 years. Up and down the Cali coast, like the whole West Coast loop, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
We did, you know, tours out to like Texas, like all throughout the U.S. Before that, and so we kind of slowed down on the touring, kind of, you know, had to deal with some other shit at the same time.
Life happens.
Yeah, you know. So not as much touring this year, but looking to do some tours. Hopefully, it's coming up in the next year or something. I kind of want to get some more content out there.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, we only have one album out, you know.
Right.
But I want to get more content out and then go back out on the road eventually. I mean, I always have the itch for it, you know. You always want to go out.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
there's something different between like spending hours and hours in a studio tracking,
Yeah.
and then going out and actually playing it live and having the interaction with the crowd.
Totally.
It's a night and day experience.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Have you guys played music before? Do you guys play, or are you guys just avid listeners? And
Yeah, I'm an avid listener and manager.
Oh, cool.
I've managed a bunch of bands. I toured with OPM for a little while.
Oh,
A
sick.
couple other bands, Mixed Mob, Cottonmouth Kings, some
Yeah,
other
yeah.
bands from Suburban Noise Land.
Awesome.
And so I'm just a big fan, and I never took advantage and learned music while I was on the road with musicians.
Yeah.
But
You're doing a lot of other important work.
But I did
though.
buy a guitar. I think that's.
Hey,
I mean, that's
that's
something,
first
right?
step, you
I've
know?
got about 6 chords, which you know, I can play like one Sublime song, so
There you
that's
go.
kind of cool, right? I feel like that's most of the way.
That's most everyone with the acoustic guitar that never gets used.
Yeah, right.
I'm a DJ,
Okay.
but I started off playing classical piano when I was a kid, and I think that the classical side of things it's awesome, but I think it stifles your creativity because you're spending so much time learning. You know, you have the notes in front of you, and you have to learn the song, and you just play what's on the notes.
Right.
And I never really actually like jammed and worked with other artists, so that's foreign to me because I went from classical to being a DJ and playing other people's stuff, you know.
Right.
And so it's like the whole band experience or the whole performer experience is kind of different for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like
Yeah.
chasing an itch or something, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's
I don't know.
interesting. No, yeah, because I don't really have any like musical theory background, you know. like-
You just taught yourself?
And well, just kind of playing around with the guitar, and then I had friends that would kind of just show me like, this is how you play a power chord.
Yeah.
And it's like you can play this over, everywhere, and this is what this note is, and then you kind of just figure things out,
Yeah.
from there. That's
Well,
kind of
and that's that style of music's based on power chords, isn't
Right,
it?
yeah,
For the most part, unless you're
it's
doing like a
pretty easy,
solo or
Yeah.
a bass player would have
Which
to know.
I don't do. I don't solo.
Yeah.
So I'm a rhythm guitar player, See, so
well, that's not your role. You're
Right.
you're the front man.
There we go.
So,
There we go. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's interesting, because I mean, but part of me wishes I had more of that musical theory.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I went back to school for audio engineering. Like this is kind of my land that I want to go to. Like I want to have a studio similar to this someday. But while I was in school, they made you take piano classes, and I'm like, oh, this will be easy, So I went and busted out my sheet music, and the first time I sat down with the piano teacher, I was like, check this out, and she's like, okay, now play me a B flat scale, or whatever, whatever it is, like you have to know the scale, and I'm like, I don't know that shit. I have 4 sharps, and I play 4 sharps. That's what I do, and so I actually had to go back and study theory, even though like physically or like my skill set, I could play the song, but I didn't know the theory behind it. And they made me go back and learn it, which was good.
But
And-
even just reading music, man, that's a pretty good skill right there, you know.
Well, it's more like, okay, that's an E, that's an
Mm-hmm.
F, and I play this one
I guess
faster
knowing how to
because it's an
play
eighth. You know?
Well, so you're front man, but do you also write for the band?
Yeah, I do most of the writing. I usually like the writing process. I mean, it varies, but I usually come up with like a hook or have a verse in mind or something like that, and I'll always kind of just bring a chord progression to the band, and then I'll be like, all right, I have these two parts. Let's
Jam to it.
Let's mess around.
Jam on
you know?
everything
And then we'll
else.
sit there and just kind of work through. People are like, oh, let's do this right here. Let's try this. Let's put this drop out or whatever. And then we kind of just...
So it becomes a little bit more collaborative once you get into the studio.
Yeah, exactly. And depending on the producer, too, you know, like before when we used to work down at in Costa Mesa at 17th Street Studios with Louis Richards. And, you know, he would bring his own flavor and stuff into it, too, you know, and it was awesome, you know. And then working here with Johnny, you know, it's like you get another perspective.
Well, that's something that I think is awesome, just going through the recording process with someone who's been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
How it elevates the band in general, and going in, learning, and then the little things that he'll do, and like coach him on this and do this. And then I just think it, you know, the knowledge that a band gets just by going through the process is, you know,
that experience
you
is,
can't beat it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's valuable for sure, you know, and especially when you're working with some dope producers, you know, it's like they drop knowledge on you all the time, you know, and you just got to be there to soak it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Is being receptive to feedback, you know,
Yeah,
not trying to
absolutely.
assume you know everything.
Right. I mean, dude, we know people who've been broken down at a recording studio because the producer wants a certain way,
And they don't want to
Yeah.
put
and
it
they
out
just
that
like
way.
either can't or they just they think it should be a different way.
That's got to be kind of a hard scenario too, just
Yeah,
dealing
I mean-
with, he wants it like this, but I've had a friend who was a drummer, and he was for a small band kind of in Phoenix back in the day, and they went through a recording process, and in the process they brought in a studio drummer instead of letting him play on the track, and that
Right.
kind of hurt his feelings a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know,
Totally, and I
get
can
it,
see, I can
you
see
know?
both sides though. You know,
Yeah.
it's like at the same time, it's
You want the quality,
It's a collaborative effort, you know.
you
It's-
know. Yeah,
whatever's going to sound the best is kind of what you're going for, you know. And
exactly.
sometimes, you know, people's feelings get hurt, egos get in the way, but
Yeah.
you know, it's got to.
So what's next? What's you're doing that next? You're going to do a
we're
music
doing,
video.
we're doing a video for the EP. Hopefully, have that out. I don't know. You know, these timetables. I'm not even going to put a date on it.
Come on, we might hold you accountable to it, man.
So we're working on that, and then we're working on a new single with Johnny that we're going to put out hopefully before the end of summer.
Does it have a
Maybe,
name?
you know. It's actually a cover.
The cover.
Yeah, so
Nice.
we're working on the Tears for Fears song that was popularized by Gary Jules
Nice.
called Mad World.
Nice.
That'll
So
be
we're gonna
cool.
put out a
Well, we're
cool
looking
reggae
forward to
version
see-
of it.
Little
seeing
reggae
that,
ska
man.
vibe on that should be
Yeah,
good.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, Johnny is back. Ava is back. So let's wrap up with Rico. The website is easeupmusic.net. The new single is out. Remind me the name?
Return to Sender.
Return to Sender. And it's definitely worth checking out. We'll be listening to it. I got a long ass ride home in the car tomorrow,
Yeah.
so I will be listening to it tomorrow in the car, and I will report back.
Yep.
And I'll
So-
listen to it on my flight, and then I'll report back and
Yep.
compare notes.
So, but we'll make sure we get some information about the band and everything in the show
Cool, man.
notes, so
Yeah,
people
appreciate
can
you
follow
guys having
along.
me, man.
And
So-
and we'll tag you up and everyththing.
Right
so,
on, brother.
but thanks for
Right on.
taking the time, Rico. Glad
Yeah,
to
it's
meet
awesome.
you,
Nice
and
to meet you as well.
and glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, we'll try to have to link up whenever.
I would love to see you guys sometime.
Yeah, when we're in your city, we'll link up.
If you're ever in like the Salt Lake area, hit
Oh,
him
cool.
up.
Yep, Salt Lake,
Seattle area, let me know.
Awesome.
I'm there quite frequently.
Yeah,
so.
we played many times at the Nectar.
Oh, dude, Nectar's dope.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah,
spot.
that's one of my favorite venues.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, and even if you're just looking for shows, if you're coming through Salt Lake or whatever, I can help you with some of that stuff too. So
Actually, I'm playing a wedding out there.
yeah,
There you go.
That'd be the
later
move, man.
Next month, I think. So
Yeah?
I'll hit you up when I
What
go.
city?
Yeah, dude, hit me up.
Tahoe, I think.
Tahoe's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
cool, man. Well, thanks so much, Rico. Really appreciate your time, brother.
Cool, man.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, bro.
And I mean, even though you're not related to Eric Estrada,
And you
you'll-
got the look.
You'll always be related to Eric Estrada to me.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. You guys have a good
Yeah,
rest
take
of
care,
your day.
brother.
take away this moment right now. Under the moon and stars, we find time to unwind. See the smoke from the fire rise up in the air. Light another split, but a bunch of smoke we disappear. Oh, there ain't no way, rather be anywhere but here. Let your head rest upon my chest as you listen to my heartbeat. Let you rest all your thoughts uncertain. No need for words when I can feel. When I'm with you, things could be a little easier with you. Time slipping by, but it moves so with you. Things could be a little easier with you. With you. It's so easy to forget the pain and the stress that's turning me upside down. When I look into your eyes, no, things will be alright. Gonna make it if we try. Keep on holding me tight and don't let go till we see the sun rising over the ocean. Girl, we'll keep on flying. Don't say no till we see the sun rising over the mountain. Girl, let's keep on climbing.